Do you have faith in the captains of the ship in terms of getting that economy growing?
Um, that's a really tricky question because we now are in the GNU world. So we've got 10 parties in government trying to figure out where to lead things. So far, we've really seen the ANC stick very much to its guns. It's continued governing the country much as it did when it had a majority. This means that the coalition partners actually lost out on a lot of battles and
Mm.
contestations. So on Bela, that education law reform, the DA lost out. On the Expropriation Act, it lost out. On the NHI, it lost out. On the negotiation around cabinet positions, it lost out. And every single time, the DA got steamrolled, basically. And now, most recently, we've had the dispute over the increase in the VAT rate by 2 percentage points, where the DA said, like, we're not going along with this. We're not supporting it. And that is the first time we think that the true uh, balance of electoral forces is being reflected in the way that cabinet negotiations happen. So the DA is pointing out to the ANC and saying, you've got 40%. Like, you can't pass a budget. You need a majority. You need our votes or you need somebody else's votes, but we're not giving you the votes to increase taxes in an environment where the economy is growing at 0.6% and people are struggling. And yeah, so now we'll have to see how that plays out because this is a really big story now.
I question whether the country is stronger for having the DA in the GNU as opposed to remaining the official opposition in the country. I don't personally think it is a stronger situation to be in the GNU for the DA. We do not, in my opinion, have any effective opposition at this moment in time.
Well, I think much of the opposition has moved outside of parliament. And so if you look at the whole AfriForum engagement, for example, with the United States, that is typically something that an opposition party would have done. Now it's a civil society organization doing this. Similarly, in the area of policy development and the ideas space, organizations like mine are now playing the role that traditionally the political opposition would have played. So the opposition is there. It's just not where you expect it to be. It's outside of parliament now. I think there's some sort of second order benefits to the DA of being in the GNU. And think about it this way. The situation before 29th of May 2024 was that the ANC was in the majority, and a lot of voters had two big concerns. A lot of ANC supporters, ANC voters had two big concerns. Their first concern was that if the ANC dropped below 50% and lost its majority and lost power, it was going to launch a war to hold on to power. There would be mayhem and chaos in the streets. People would be shooting at each other. There would be blood running down the streets. People were very scared of that happening. The second worry was that if the ANC lost its majority and the DA found some way back into power, it was going to introduce racist policies and sort of re-racialize South Africa, lead it back towards apartheid. People were worried about that. But now, post May 29th, we see the ANC has lost the majority, but there's no chaos. Like, the country carries on as before. There's not a problem. It's actually fine. And the DA being in government hasn't introduced apartheid. It hasn't gone back to racist policies. It's been perfectly sensible, a normal party. And so the result of this is that the many disgruntled ANC voters who previously were not willing to consider voting for anybody else, firstly now say, well, I guess it's okay if I don't vote for the ANC, even if they're below 50. There's no chaos. It's okay. And many of them will also say, well, like the ANC and the DA are working together. The DA is not like this white supremacist, racist party that we were worried about, that we were told to be worried about by the ANC and by the
Mm.
media. But they're fine. So maybe I can vote for the DA. So I think it's really recalibrating the entire political system, the way things are not running at the moment.